Good evening, Ian Cooper here. I hope this finds you well. Markets had a great week last week. Even with geopolitical chaos, markets managed to close the week higher. Now, if the Dow Jones, for example, can break above prior resistance at 44,033, it could rally back to 45,000 quickly as long as nothing volatility inducing happens. For the week ahead, we'll see jobs news later this holiday shortened week. And Fed Chair Jerome Powell said during congressional testimony last week that he believed the U.S. labor force is strong, but added that if it were to weaken, then that would argue for cutting rates sooner. We're also waiting to see if there are new trade war policy updates. And while July 8th and 9th are critical for potentially restarting tariffs, President Trump will probably just extend the date, which could ignite another key rally in the markets in the days ahead. This is definitely something to keep an eye on as the week progresses. Now, as we wait on those reports, the jobs reports, and the trade war policy updates, let's update our recently opened and closed positions for all of the products that I work on. We'll start out with News Event Trade Alert, or NETA. Over the last few days, we opened a new position in the Palantir July 18th, 2025 142 calls. We then closed half of the trade to secure a win after those calls ran from 7 to 10. Now, granted, the stock did drop on Friday, but we still believe higher highs are in the cards for Palantir. We have to remember that most of the drop that we saw on Friday was just investors protecting wins, and the stock was actually overdue after such an incredible rally. We also picked up the Palantir July 18th, 2025 148 calls, again in News Event Trade Alert. And we also exited half of the Generac GNRC July 18th, 2025 130 calls, which ran from 7:15 to 12:75. A day later, as Generac became a bit overbought and overextended, we did jump out for another win because it ran from 7:15 to 14:50. So we didn't want to risk that win with Generac becoming overextended. We didn't want to risk that capital gain. We also closed out the Apple June 27th, 2025 205 calls for a loss. However, we are looking to jump back into Apple calls, especially if Apple can break above prior resistance at 205. Right now, Apple is consolidating just under its 50-day moving average. If it can break above that, we would initially like to see a test of 205 to 210 per share. Moving over to Trigger Point, we closed out the AMD June 20, 2025 120 calls for a win, with the trade running from 6:20 to 12. We also opened a new position in the HIMS July 18th, 2025 60 calls the other day. With HIMS, we'd like to see the underlying stock refill its bearish gap at around 65 a share from its current price of $49.41. Over in tech stock profits, we also jumped in and out of AMD here as well, just because the tech giant has been an easy winner lately. In tech stocks, we closed the second half of the AMD July 18th, 2025 135 calls, which ran from 350 to 1350. We also closed half of the AMD July 18th, 2025 136 calls, which ran from 645 to 1250. And we also opened a new position in the AMD July 18th, 2025 146 calls as well. And even after a substantial run in AMD, as you can see on the screen right now, we would like to see AMD initially test about 160 a share. Over in quick moves, we were forced out of the second half of the Royal Caribbean July 3rd, 2025 to 65 put. Unfortunately, the first half returned 76%, and the other half went right in the toilet. And that happened because oil pulled back on easing tensions between Israel and Iran. Now, should that situation flare up again, and there are risks to the Strait of Hormuz, for example, oil could soar back, and of course, Royal Caribbean could easily pull back as well because it depends on oil supply as well. Also, in quick moves, we also picked up the HIMS July 18th, 2025, 51 calls as well. Let's see. Here's the HIMS chart. Sorry about that. And over in Algo AI, again, we did play AMD. Now, typically, we don't like to use the same stocks across the board. But with AMD lately, it's been so explosive and so profitable with any trade that we use for it, we really wanted to get everyone in to make that easy money. For Algo AI, we said to sell to close the second half of the AMD July 18th, 2025, 130 calls for a win. From an entry price of $470, the calls jumped to $14.15. We sold the second half of the AMD July 18th, 2025, 120 calls, which ran from $840 to about $23. And we also said that once you've protected those wins, let's shift into the AMD July 18th, 2025, 143 calls, and the AMD July 18th, 2025, 144 calls as well. We're going to jump back into the markets and just try to find some newer opportunities so that we can send you a bunch of new great opportunities for the week ahead. But remember that the week is a bit shorter because of the July 4th holiday. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or anything that we can help with, please reach out at any time. I will get back to you as quickly as possible. And with that, stay tuned for new trades in all of our programs. We will speak again very, very soon. Thank you so much.